We are going to begin, though, with our big story. President Biden back out on the campaign trail today on the heels of his State of the Union address. The president holding a rally outside Philly today and set to visit several battleground states in what his campaign is calling a month of action, where he hopes to build off of the momentum from the State of the Union speech. Last night, President Biden sparring with Republicans, telling them to pass that bipartisan border security bill that GOP senators blocked last month. Take a listen.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing.
As the president heads toward a likely rematch with his predecessor, as he called him last night, Donald Trump slamming last night's address, calling it the, quote, worst State of the Union speech ever made. This as the Republican National Committee undergoes a major shakeup. Today, voting to install Trump's hand-picked leadership choices, including his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, as co-chair. Meantime, members of the third-party group No Labels meeting today, voting unanimously to move forward with a potential 2024 presidential ticket. Joining me now is No Labels chief strategist, Ryan Clancy. Ryan, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm really looking forward to talking to you because I want to clear up what this is. A lot of people hear third-party, No Labels. They think of things they've seen in the past. What are you guys doing exactly?
Well, look, we've spent the last 2 years working to get ballot access in states across the country for the possibility of putting up a ticket. And we always said we'd regroup right after Super Tuesday to see if we thought there was a path forward. And that's what happened today when we got together 800 of our delegates from all 50 states to do a gut check on where they want to go from here. And
so the gut check was?
The gut check was to keep going. So what this means is by next week, we're going to have more details on the process by which we would pick a ticket. And then we may well have actual candidates to put on that ticket soon thereafter. I mean, look, we've set up a pretty high bar here. We've always said we're not going to put up a ticket just to do it, to fuel any kind of spoiler effort. We want no part of that. We're only putting up a ticket if we think it's one that has a legit shot to win in November.
I'm not sure if you can see, but we're showing some pictures of some folks there that could possibly be on a ticket. We've reported that some people have flat out said they don't want to be part of the movement. Do you have any names out there? Have you talked to people? Do you have any ideas?
We have been talking to a lot of exceptional candidates that we think could fit on the ticket. The one thing I would tell people is for months there have been names floated out there associated with the No Labels ticket. The only problem is none of those names have been put out there by us. So if you're reading any names today or over the weekends, none of those names are out there because No Labels put them out there. Those names are out there because, you know, people like to do baseless speculation, and that's kind of what that is.
Since you don't want to be a spoiler, I'm wondering how you figure, when do you get to that point? Because third-party candidates always end up hurting one candidate or another. It seems that way. Former President Bill Clinton may not have won without Ross Perot playing a spoiler. Al Gore might have been president if not for Ralph Nader and Jill Stein in 2016, taking votes from Hillary Clinton. So what's the end game? If you don't want to be a spoiler, how will you know you have a ticket that could really compete?
Well, Phil, look, this is the thing that we think everybody's missing is, you know, yes, historically, independents do have a tough road to hoe. We're very mindful of that. But we really do believe this election is different. We have never had an election in the modern era where our two major parties are this unpopular, where the presumptive major party nominees are this popular, and where the public is this pessimistic about the future of the country. That's why when we've been polling over the last 2 years, and we just asked for people's openness to an independent ticket, something on the order of 6 in 10 voters say they're at least open to the idea. And to us, that is suggestive, if nothing else, of an opening.
Yeah, and in years past, there's been no shot. But as you point out, it's something like a good majority, 75–80% of the country doesn't want to see this matchup. So I guess you're saying if you come up with this ticket that is palatable, maybe it will be a movement, not just a campaign,
Well,
right?
something else has really changed, which if you go back to 30 years ago and you looked at the makeup of the electorate, it was about a third between Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Well, today, 43% of the public identifies as independent, only 27 each for Republicans and independents. So the electorate really is changing. And we really do think a lot of Washington is just underestimating the depth of public dissatisfaction with the choices they're facing and the possibility of a rematch of 2020. I mean, this is the sequel that absolutely no one wants to see.
Yeah, and so we'll be watching. Ryan Clancy, thanks for taking the time to lay it out for us. A lot of clarity there. I appreciate it. All right, now let's bring in our big story panel. Joining us today, ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse, former Republican Congresswoman from Virginia, Barbara Comstock, Democratic strategist and former campaign advisor to President Barack Obama, Amisha Cross, and ABC News' Jay O'Brien joins us again from Washington. Good to see you all. Barbara, let's start with you. You just heard what Ryan told us. What do you think about no labels and its chances to find consensus candidates?
You know, I've been hearing from them for over a year, and everybody who they've approached to be a candidate has bowed out. And I think last night you had such a strong showing from President Biden. And as someone who is a Nikki Haley supporter, I was so pleased to hear President Biden start out with that strong support for democracy, quoting President Reagan, that strong support for Ukraine, all those things that Nikki Haley was talking about, quoting, tear down this wall, saying we're going to fight Putin, all the things that Nikki Haley was talking about. Now, I may not like some of his economic policies, but I sure do like, Dow 39,000. So I can live with some of the economic policies with the way things are going right now. No labels is going nowhere.
Amisha, do you think there's a Democrat who would risk, I don't know, but their political future to leave the party and join no labels?
Absolutely not. And I don't think there's a Republican who will either. I think that's one of the hurdles that no labels faces. They're not going to get any prominent names. They're not going to get any names that could actually stand a chance of winning a primary and actually being a strong contender for the presidency, because nobody is willing to not have that DNC support. Nobody is willing to not have the showcase that comes along with having the support of the party behind them. Let's be real. America is a two-party system. Third-party candidates do not succeed at the federal level. We have not seen that at the presidential level. We've seen some who've served as spoilers to peel off in tight election cycles a percentage of candidates or a percentage of voters, but it's never enough to get them over the barrel. It's never enough to actually be competitive. And if you really want to run and win for president of the United States, you have to be a member of one of the two major parties. That's just the rules in this cycle and every other one.
Jay, you cover the Hill all the time, and you see Democrats and Republicans, and it's hard to get them to agree really on anything, especially in today's climate. But what about the Senate group, the Common Sense Coalition, that was a bipartisan group of centrist senators who were working on some issues? Is this along those lines? Anything like that?
Well, and it's interesting, Phil, when we talk about any kind of bipartisan work that's done in Congress, it's so often rejected. I'll take you back, not necessarily on the coalition that you're talking about, but the immigration reform, for instance. There's this bipartisan group of senators that all get into a room. Kyrsten Sinema is an independent, Chris Murphy, a Democrat of Connecticut, and James Langford, Republican of Oklahoma. And they all get into this room, and they hammer out over months this bipartisan piece of immigration reform. It's a long process. Staffers missed Christmas. Again, it was bipartisan work. They deliver that to Republicans in the Senate. Some Republicans are on board, maybe not everybody, but then they send it over to the House that's got a lot more hardline Republicans in the Senate. And the product of that months of work, that bipartisan effort, gets rejected. And so, to everyone's point, bipartisan work, it's welcome. It can work a lot of the time, but in an election year, bipartisan kinds of climate tend to fall by the wayside.
So, Mike, does a unity ticket of two centrist, middle-of-the-road politicians, perhaps even a Republican, a Democrat, does it make sense to you? Because, I mean, if you listen to Ryan, he's right. A lot of the country doesn't want to see this rematch. Seems right for that kind of third-party thing going on right now. But Barbara says it's going nowhere. A lot of people say that. What do you think?
Yeah, as all the other panelists have mentioned, a third-party candidate is just a tough candidate to win on the federal level. Third-party candidates do have a good shot at winning when it comes to the local level, but when it comes to backing, you do need, as of now, maybe time would change, the backing of a major party to support you. Yes, individuals would like to possibly see a different ticket. They want to see a centrist ticket, but we've been in the primaries, and the primaries are typically a little bit more hardened to the base. As we begin to widen out the narrative, people usually do course correct and come into the middle to really fight for the independents. I think that President Biden recognized that yesterday with him laying out what his path is going forward. President Trump would need to do the same thing to really appeal to the independent voters to really figure out if there will be stability within our democracy heading into the November election cycle.
Mike, Barbara, Misha, and Jay, thank you guys very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.